Saddle up, Denver. Deep within the facility, executives are orchestrating plays, crafting aggressive schemes, and calculating pivotal gambles that could entirely redefine your roster for 2026. Believe it, a few of these impending decisions will catch you completely off guard. You are hearing whispers of blockbuster swaps, ascending talents, draft day shocks, and a blue-chip tight end the team might aggressively pursue. But does the reward outweigh the danger? Before diving into the specifics, I need a quick moment from you. If you live for this team, specifically if you are the type whose veins run with orange and blue, hit that like button immediately. Prove to the entire league exactly how powerful this fan base really is. If you have stood by this franchise through decades of highs and lows, drop a comment declaring your undying loyalty right now. I need to identify the real pillars of this dynasty. Let's move, because the intel surfacing now could spark an explosive resurgence next year. Your team faces monumental choices ahead, particularly regarding the urgent need to upgrade the receiving core. A sizzling candidate currently circulating in the rumor mill is George Pickens. Should the front office manage to execute this acquisition, it drastically alters your offensive alignment. Pickens instantly takes over as your primary target, pushing Courtland Sutton into the number 2 role. And the changes continue. For that third spot, expect a fierce battle between Troy Franklin and Pat Bryant. Currently, Franklin probably opens the year there, but Bryant's pure ability might rocket him up the ladder quickly. Picture Marvin Mims Jr. as your 5th option. That represents a level of talent rivals envy. It forms a lethal group capable of haunting defensive coordinators if the chemistry clicks. However, securing a marquee pass catcher requires you to sacrifice other assets. If you consider who would be the most painful departure in free agency, Ja'Quan McMillian tops the list. He has evolved into a vital piece and his exit would hurt. Conversely, players such as Justin Strainad, Adam Troutman, and P.J. Locke appear far more replaceable. This doesn't mean they lack worth, but when you must clear financial room to rebuild, you have to make ruthless cuts. Regarding Troutman, if he departs, who steps into his shoes? You might hear chatter about Brendan Doyle from Stanford, yet there is insufficient footage to confidently anoint him as the successor. One thing is certain. If the team looks to the draft, you need a tight end who dominates as a receiver rather than just another blocker. This leads you directly to the prospect every supporter keeps mentioning, Kenyon Sadiq. Get this straight. Kenyon Sadiq stands as the premier tight end in this class, by a wide margin. Measuring 6'3" and 245 pounds, this Oregon standout creates a total mismatch. He destroys zone defenses, commands the center of the gridiron, and offers you legitimate all-pro potential. He is an athletic anomaly coming off a stellar 2025 campaign with 51 receptions, 560 yards, and 8 scores. Yes, he dropped 6 balls and needs blocking refinement, but you can fix that. You cannot manufacture that explosive agility or his instinctive route navigation. He strongly resembles Sam Laporta. If you recall Laporta's phenomenal debut season, you understand the stratospheric ceiling Sadiq offers. The problem is, you must trade up to secure him. He will not remain on the board at pick 30. That is a certainty. Although you may fantasize about seeing Sadiq in your colors, the truth is the team might need to adjust plans. Should they decide to climb the draft board, a prospect like Miles Leone could offer superior value based on your roster gaps. This raises the bigger question of identifying exactly what your squad desperately requires entering the market. Offensively, it is a dead heat between receiver and backfield help. You have suffered through agonizing drops, which suggests you need that elite playmaker. Yet, do not ignore the necessity for a tough, dependable ball carrier. This is where a talent like Breece Hall enters the conversation. He is dynamic and effective running inside or on the perimeter. However, if you require a relentless interior rusher, Rachaad White presents a fascinating alternative. In 2025, he sat in the 98th percentile for gap scheme runs, a monster in the A and B gaps who churns out hard yardage. Should Hall remain out of reach, White represents the type of stealth acquisition that pays massive returns. Defensively, linebacker remains a gaping void. With Alex Singleton and Justin Strawned possibly exiting, your current starters would be Drew Sanders and Lavelle Bailey. That simply lacks the veteran savvy and command required for a unit tasked with locking down the middle. Whether via the open market or rookie selection, you must address that interior linebacker spot instantly. Since you are focused on the draft, supporters are suggesting some daring and intriguing options. Candidates such as Denzel Boston, C.J. Allen, Anthony Hill Jr., and Jacob Rodriguez come to mind. Most represent reliable picks. Hill Jr. and Allen specifically look like prospects with immense potential. Regarding Rodriguez, you might find some hesitation there. You have watched Texas Tech defenders fail to ignite the league, and you worry he might follow that same disappointing path. Yet, it is refreshing to see you focusing on this unit because you know Denver absolutely requires reinforcement in that spot. Before you finish this section, consider the buzz around Pat Bryant. Next year, he becomes the engine that keeps your offense moving. You won't see him as a deep threat or a red zone hammer, but you will get ruthless consistency and effectiveness. Picture a stat line of 50 catches, 620 yards, and 3 to 4 touchdowns. For a fourth option, that is incredibly solid. You need that depth to contend, and that is exactly why the debate is currently blazing among Broncos insiders. Trading up forces you to sacrifice precious capital, costing a future second-rounder or more just to reach the range where Sadiq lands. When you analyze everything displayed during his rise from 5 catches in 2023 to a massive 51-catch breakout in 2025, you see enormous potential. You are looking at a freak athlete for a tight end who instantly boosts the passing attack, but you must ask if the price is right. Your decision hinges entirely on how confident the front office feels about depth elsewhere, especially regarding linebackers and the offensive line. Because if you make that aggressive trade and miss, you are taking a gamble that completely derails the rebuild. But if you strike gold, Sadiq becomes your next franchise tight end. It is the ultimate boom or bust scenario. You hear whispers about other receiver targets, but Garrett Wilson is gone. The Jets simply refuse to let him walk. Regarding Jalen Waddle, you know contact occurred at the deadline, yet the Dolphins demanded more than a first-round pick. That price is incredibly steep. And honestly, you might feel Waddle isn't worth more than a single selection. Looking at A.J. Brown. Despite his immense talent, you have to question the fit, given the risks to locker room chemistry. You see the Broncos fixated on constructing a core that delivers not just raw skill, but unwavering stability and cohesion. Jordan Addison has surfaced with baggage. You see the flashy talent, but those multiple speeding incidents raise serious red flags. While you might view him as a cheap, high-reward target, the Broncos likely hesitate to add another receiver carrying such heavy baggage. You can feel the team's determination to eliminate distractions as they hunt down playoff redemption. This brings you right back to the talent already sitting on your roster, specifically staring at the quarterback position. You hear calls for a superior backup, yet the internal consensus remains that Jarrett Stidham stands as a solid number 2. You saw his game against the Patriots prove he is a backup rather than a starter, but behind a true ace, he is reliable. Remember back in the preseason when you heard voices demanding Stidham start over Bo Nix? That opinion aged terribly, but it shows you how polarizing the role becomes without elite-level consistency. You need to address how this squad fills the interior linebacker void. With Singleton and Strand potentially exiting, the urgency hits critical levels. Denver might aim for Denzel Boston or Anthony Hill Jr. in the draft, as both bring high-level traits. Hill specifically has displayed flashes of elite instinct and brutality. But you must consider a prospect like C.J. Allen. There is another promising name, yet you worry if these rookies can immediately step up and handle starting roles, because right now, you are looking at Drew and Lavelle Bailey on the chart, which leaves you dangerously thin. You cannot forget that the tight end conversation extends far beyond just Sadiq. Names like Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland are generating buzz, and either could be available if you hold steady at pick 30. They might not reach Sadiq's tier, but you see them as solid fallback options capable of providing immense value. However, if you decide to climb the board, fans suggest Miles Leone as a target, potentially offering better value depending on the tight end run. Everything hinges on how the board crumbles on draft night. Now, turn your attention back to Pat Bryant. You heard earlier that his skill set lacks flash, yet you cannot overstate the vital role he plays. You trust him on 3rd and 7 to move the chains, running crisp routes and exploiting soft spots in the zone. He won't top the touchdown charts, but 50 catches, over 600 yards, and a few scores is outstanding production from your 4th receiver. With all eyes locked on Sutton, Pickens if you acquire him, and the potential rise of Troy Franklin, Bryant becomes the X factor keeping drives alive, while you still have the wild card, Marvin Mims Jr. His role remains murky, but imagine wielding that kind of explosiveness in your 5th receiver slot. That is a pure luxury, proving to you how dramatically that receiver room improves with just one massive addition.